Transition, the process of change from one condition to another.
We are now at a new crossroads where change is evident once again.
What does not serve us must transform us anew.
Returning to our original state of oneness and true nature of that which created who we truly are.
Confusion was the way of the past. Enlightenment is the way of the now and future. Shedding layers.
We now bring you the transformation of the two who started as one. Our fearless planet never stands still.
Earth has been in a process of transition. Not exactly as remarkable on now.
Welcome to Transition Radio.
Hello, 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 and welcome. Welcome. It's been quite a while, folks. Long time. Seems like forever.
It's been a long time since we were in Fort Lauderdale, actually. And that was, seems like thousands and thousands of miles ago.
Oh gosh, April. Actually, last year I think it was April 19th or
29th.
Well, we left the 29th, but we didn't have a show because we were getting
yeah.
packing and all that good stuff. But I feel we have so much to say that it's a shame not to have podcast, broadcast, whatever you want to call this. And that's what we call it, Real Talk, because we tend to be very real and very raw.
We'll try to be a little bit more edited, I guess, in our talk because we don't like being, censored by YouTube and stuff.
Well,
because the other day we were
showing something. No, it's like
about,
they won't advertise.
Yeah, they won't.
I want to make sure that we're on, because I don't see the. But anyway, there is so much for us to say, and it's just it's a shame to not continue our platform. We will be shutting down the website, transitionradio.net, once I think it's up for renewing in September. I'm not going to be renewing it. We're going to keep the blog, Transition Radio blog, and all the shows will go there. And obviously, all the interviews will remain in YouTube, but I'm not going to continue to promote.
Yeah, we just figure why bother, promoting,
exactly.
The transgender community and their push for transition at all costs. So we want to be a voice of reason. We want to be an option for those people that really need answers, to these issues that we deal with. And a lot of times we need to realize that it's not what you think it might be. It could be something else.
As a matter of fact, there's a lot of deep issues that revolve around identity, not just gender. Gender is just tip of the iceberg. Identity in general. People identify with their jobs, with their hobbies, with their likes and dislikes, and it all boils down to ego. Ego is the one that creates all the story. It creates the drama, whether the ego wants to become a victim or wants to become arrogant fool, whether they're pushing religion, whether they're pushing whatever it is, whatever product, whatever story it is that you need to be able to survive, because the ego is created for your survival, is the whole, caboodle of why people do what they do.
And we wanted to encourage anyone out there who's watching to just go ahead if you wanted to text us a question, or if you wanted to interact with us. Our number is 575-519-5930. It's there on the
screen right over here somewhere. These things are always
it's like, where is it? But yeah, we would love to interact with you guys and love to answer any questions that you might have regarding, anything that we're talking about or anything that you might have on your mind. And if you want to call in, you can use that same number and make a phone call.
Yeah, text or call. By the way, we are in Silver City, Mexico, for those of you who are wondering, okay, one minute they were traveling all over the world, and now we're in a motel room in Silver City.
To
That's where it all started.
actually, across the street there is the place where I recovered.
Yeah, when you had your accident. So, but yeah, it's nice hotel. It's got everything included. We got cable, internet. We've got AC and heater. Maid service once a week. Nice sized fridge. We can't complain.
It's a lot bigger than the Prius.
Oh gosh, yeah.
The Prius was nice though. I don't know if everybody knows what we did the last almost 100 days. 100 days ago, we started and embarked upon a journey, a great adventure of our own that took us from Florida, where we were living, and we drove out towards, we wanted to go to the East Coast actually at first because we wanted to kind of make a circle, not a circle, but a big trip across the United States. And weather kind of prohibited us from doing that. And we ended up spending a lot of time out west, Utah, Oregon, Colorado. We went through Minnesota and Wisconsin, visited a friend in Wisconsin. It was just a great time, and we visited friends in Oregon as well. And
so a lot of national parks. I mean, it was really a trip of a lifetime. A lot of people would love to do what we did, and then they worry that they have to spend so much money. You really don't. If you get a good economical car and a car that you could actually crash or sleep in, then there's no problem.
Don't crash it.
No, don't crash it. Just crash it when it's crashing and sleeping in.
Yeah.
But gas wasn't that bad. Most of our food. Yeah, and that wasn't even a heck of a lot. So it's a lot cheaper to do that than to pay for obviously a place, which now our expenses are back up. So
but now it's like we have a camper whenever we want to take off and go down the street to one of these national parks or a state park or something. We can just head on out in the Prius. We don't have a lot of overhead. We don't have a lot of stuff. So even we leave some things behind. We don't have to pack up the car like it was, and we just travel and sleep in the car.
So before, I wanted to just mention what our focuses on our shows are going to be about in the near future. We're very passionate about health, so we want to talk about health issues and bring you the up-to-date information regarding how to get better health, how to lose weight, not by taking pills and not by killing yourself, but the natural approach to doing it, which the fitness industry lies to you. We want to do a lot of personal growth and spirituality podcasts to help people, empower people, not enslave people. We want to educate people on trans issues and detransitioning or desisting, which is what we called what we've done, and self-growth and healing, and as well as any kind of important news, that there are out there that we feel that we can talk about and share with you guys. Also, very welcome to write us to transitionradioshow@gmail.com or gypsybluenomads@gmail.com with any show topics, any questions. If you want to be part of the show and share your experience and whatever, whatever it is, then you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, I mean, it's an open door for you guys to interact with us, and we can maybe together come up with solutions and options for people that don't involve hurting themselves and causing damage to their bodies in a way that's permanent and long lasting.
And that's very important. That's the key, that self-expression is very healthy, because if you bottle up how you feel inside, you develop a neurotic mind, and neurotic mind tends to create neurotic events. And that's what I believe transitioning has become, a neurotic event where people become self-absorbed and self-obsessed and want to create something out of themselves that's virtually impossible. And we want to prevent that from people, to prevent people from doing that.
Wait a minute though. Who are you? Are you Mark or are you Maritza?
I am Maritza, and Maritza created Mark, how many years ago? 15 years ago, as a form of an ego self-defense mechanism to allow me to deal with life, to allow me to fit in, because that's one of the things I noticed. We do this to fit in because we think, well, we can't be I couldn't be a lesbian anymore because, that I've been ridiculed all my life for that. And not to say that there's anything wrong with that. Each person has to deal with their own battles. But that's how I dealt with my battle, and I created Mark. But I'm Maritza. I'm a woman. I'm a female. I'll always be a female. I'm a female now with scars like facial hair. And now, what I'm trying to do here is we stopped taking hormones. So it's going to take a while for this body to actually stop all this growth. And I believe it can be done. I believe that with a good nutritional plan, healthy lifestyle, the cells will return to its natural form. And I believe that the hair will fall off enough where it's not going to be like damaging. When I shave now, it's very damaging. I have very soft skin. My skin was never meant to have a beard.
Right.
And so I'm letting, even my mom and I discussed this the other day, instead of like fighting it, just let it do its thing now that you're no longer taking hormones, and see where you go from there.
Sounds good to me. I mean, I take Maritza, I take Mark, whoever you want to be.
It's, you know.
But, you know, the thing is that people, when they do detransition, they put so much emphasis still on the physical. It's like you have people saying, I don't want to be a woman with a beard. I don't want to be, you know, a man with breasts. You know, if he had like, you know, breast augmentation surgery. I mean, it's like, you know, yes, you need to do what you can, but you can't like obsess over it to the point where it becomes like your obsession when you first transitioned in. Now transitioning back, now it's the same obsession.
And we'll talk about that. Before that, do we have anything else to say about our 90-day journey? What we learned in that journey?
Gosh, the 90-day journey taught me a lot of things. And one of the things that it taught me was that, you know, I'm just me. You know, I could try to pretend to be anything that, you know, I wanted to be, but when you're out there and you are not in a controlled environment, you're not in a place where you can, you know, enhance your looks or anything like that. You're living in a car, and every morning you get up and you got to deal with facial hair and stubble, and you got to deal with, you know, having to go to the bathroom, and, you know, these are real issues and stuff. And I just realized, you know, hey, I was given a male body, and I thank God for that male body, because that's who God made me to be, you know. Now, I appreciate, you know, what women go through, but I would never be a woman. You know, I've always been a man, and I will always be a man. So it taught me a lot about just who I can accept myself to be, you know, by just embracing that humanness, that maleness that I have, you know.
And that doesn't mean that you can enjoy pretty things, like things that most women enjoy, and wearing certain attire. And, you know, that's something that it's probably, and I would safely say, something from childhood that kind of placed your obsession where you wanted to be able to have things that girls had, but you couldn't have.
I honestly don't know if that's really the case, but all I know is that we as human beings have the right to express ourselves as we choose to, whether if it's by means of some trauma, and maybe if, you know, if I get over that trauma, then I won't dress in a certain way, I want to present a certain way. That's really not my concern. My concern is that I want people to know that they can be accepted and loved and understood and welcomed, you know, however they want to dress. You know, what is clothing anyway?
And last I checked, God is not in the business of fashion design.
Yeah.
You know, people want to really speak for God in a sense, and create all sorts of, we need this light on because we never did turn it on. It's getting a bit dark.
Looks good.
Looks good.
Yeah.
People want to put words in God's mouth and our Creator's mouth, and God just, in my opinion, has better things to do than worry about a fashion statement that human beings are presenting with. It's like females are able to wear pants and shirts and t-shirts and sneakers and all that stuff, yet men have not been granted that kind of, they have other male privilege, but it's like, oh no, you can't wear earrings, or you can't wear, a skirt, or you can't wear this, that, and the other. And it's like, I think it's important that people are able to express, because expressing is something that allows a person to fully open up in all their senses. And if you just kind of box in somebody, or step on them and don't allow them to express, it becomes very neurotic. And I truly believe that that neuroticism has expressed itself in transsexuality.
And there are definite markers of danger within identifying as transsexual, because immediately what doctors want to do with you, what psychiatrists, psychologists want to do with you, what society wants to do with you, are not really helpful to you, to your health, and to your ability to continue to exist,
to grow as a human being.
As a person.
You get stunted because you're living in someday I wish I could, I want to be this, and that becomes your entire focus, and that's very unhealthy. You are tearing down every cell in your body, not only by the pharmaceuticals that you're putting in there, but by the procedures that you're doing. And these are not normal things. People are not meant to be cut open and have their genitals removed and have things added on. I mean, that is not normal. There's nothing normal about that. And my question to people is, if you are saying that you're being your authentic self, why do you have to masquerade and do so much to be your authentic self? Authentic self comes naturally. You don't need to do anything to be authentic.
Yeah, if you're going to be yourself, then being yourself is not having to enhance or trying to look a certain way, or trying to add a certain body part or remove another body part. That's really so topical that doesn't address the real issues that you're dealing with.
I mean, get to know the person that you are inside, what you like, what you enjoy. It's funny to me and to a lot of individuals who question the transgender narrative is, yeah, you say you're a woman, but do you really have women traits? Are you really in touch with that female essence of you, your true essence? And your true essence cannot be copied, cannot be duplicated, cannot be created, cannot be bought at a store, cannot be altered. It's something that's within you.
Exactly.
And that's what a lot of people miss. It's like, I've been like this all of my life, with the exception of a beard because I didn't have hormones. But as a female body individual, I always had the stronger energy force. Many call masculine type of energy. But then I also had a very nurturing and loving and female essence of me. And then all people goes, well, that's stereotype, not all females are. Well, my personality and the personality of a lot of females before the whole change of society was to be nurturing. Male had a certain role, females had a certain role. We each brought something to the table, and it was beautiful, But if you have to pretend to be something you're not, if you have to really force it, if you have to really practice your walk and your talk, and oh my God, I don't want to get, I don't want my stealth mode to be thought out or whatever, or what's the word I'm looking for? Found out or whatever. I mean, then that takes a lot of work, and that's very exhausting. Very exhausting in general for everyone.
And at a certain point, I mean, we were just on a Facebook post of a friend of yours that you've known as a trans person for a long time, and they were talking about how they still yearn for those days, for things were more simple, for things were not serious, and they had, they were cross-dressing 7 years ago or something, and they glanced back at an old photo of themselves, and they were just having a great time. They were dancing and doing the drag thing or whatever.
You put on the costume, and then you had fun, drinking, dancing.
And now it's like everything's so much more serious. Although there's more acceptance in certain regards, or more tolerance in certain regards, there's just a lack of like the ability to just express and be. Now they also have to become women, which is something that they weren't trying to be before. They were just having fun.
Exactly.
You know.
And expressing that other side, because I think it's very natural for people to role play, whether you're a couple and you role play in bed, whether you want to express that masculine side or that feminine side. It's a normal, very normal integration of human behavior. And it becomes pathological when you create medicalization of it, when you start harming yourself, when the dream you want to become reality. And that's where the problem lies. And that's where we're seeing a lot of problems, you know, in the psyche and just about everything, because it's become political, it's become almost cultish, religious, you know, and that just destroys the essence of that fun, of that, like, just enjoy the moment, but don't get caught up in that moment. Don't let that moment take over your real true self.
So what ends up happening is that we lose that ability to just be and express and stuff, and it becomes like an identity and a wish to change the impossible, and at that point it becomes a raging river, and then it's out of control, and then it floods you and everyone else you know.
Yeah, it destroys things, it destroys relationships, it destroys your health, it destroys your own person, because after a while, and we've seen this in a lot of trans individuals, they lose themselves. They're like, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
And they become very depressed.
I can only imagine what it's like for an FTM to take this very potent synthetic hormone that does massive changes in a short amount of time. And the voice box changes, the voice, the timbre, and the hair starts growing crazy, you know, and then they just, I mean, their attitude, you know, their mental awareness is different, their whole, you know.
It goes so quickly that your body changes so quickly that your mind is having trouble catching up.
That's what we heard.
And then when you finally catch up, then you're like, is this what I really want? I've lost certain things. You gain certain things, so we think, but you really are losing a heck of a lot more, you know? And I can't speak for everyone, but I know what I felt, you know, I felt that I lost my ability as a female to be trusted, even in the medical community, to be able to go into a room where I would have to help an old lady get dressed. Now they see me as a man. There's not the same trust. There's fear. I've lost so much, my voice, my hair. I mean, just a slew of things that I took for granted before. And what did I gain? A deep voice, a hairy body and face, a bald head. I mean, really, it wasn't anything that
the
fantastic.
Ability to use the men's urinal.
Yeah. I can't use the men's urinal no matter what, you know? So I really didn't gain much of anything. And that's what I think the voice of reason needs to come in. There needs to be another voice to tell these young women who want to become men, it's not all you think it is. It really isn't. You're going to lose more than you're going to gain. And as the year progresses, the longer you are on the synthetic hormones and synthetic medication, the more your health will decline, the more your mind will decline, the more at risk you are for strokes, heart attack, diabetes. I mean, you name it. It's just a matter of not if, but when. You're playing Russian roulette, and as the year progresses, you're adding more bullets to the chamber.
So, desisting, what does that mean to us? I mean, I didn't want to say, oh, we're detransitioning again, you know, because I mean, it gives that connotation that we're just like, you know, unsure of ourselves, and that we're constantly back and forth, and people might think, you guys are crazy. Why are you guys doing this again? Figure it out. Pick a side and stick with it.
And like giving trans people a bad name.
Oh yeah, giving trans people a bad
have
name.
Such a great name. Desisting, and that's the word you thought of, is we're just going to stop trying to be something that we're not. We're going to stop taking hormones. We're going to stop damaging our bodies. We're going to stop obsessing with this thing that we think that we're like Mr. Potato Heads, where you can add things and remove things, and it's like transition. You never transition to anywhere. So
even when you do transition, you don't really go anywhere.
No, you don't. I mean, that's the illusion, I guess.
So desisting means that we stopped taking cross-sex hormones, which we would highly encourage anybody who's taking cross-sex hormones to really consider the risk and the danger that they pose to you at any given moment that you inject or inject. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it is a very volatile and dangerous practice that is not even recommended by the FDA. It's off-label use of a drug.
Synthetic hormone that the body doesn't even recognize. I mean, it's bad enough when people have excess hormones that they produce naturally. Imagine synthetic hormones, especially for a male body individual. Male body individuals after a certain age only is capable of handling
34 ppg
something or another, which is the blood reading of estrogen, because male bodies do produce estrogen, and as their testosterone level drops, their estrogen level goes up. Well, more than that amount will create diseases and disorders. Imagine the amount that most trans women ingest.
Well, I just remember when I was really heavily into my transition the first year, people were like, oh yeah, I got levels at around 800. Mm-hmm. And I'm so excited, my breasts are starting to develop, and it's like, you don't realize that 800 number, that is like a death number, I mean, and it really doesn't show anything that anything is happening for you that is positive for what you want to see, because, these hormones work in a way that, the body is not stupid.
No, it's not.
And it's not going to be fooled, into thinking that one gender is the other gender and then operate the same way as that gender. It's not. The body is actually doing its own job in fighting against. And I know, because I was taking spironolactone for like a year, and when I went in for my blood work in November 2014, my testosterone numbers were still high. And that's because the body was like,
the more estrogen you put in, and the more the body wants to create testosterone. It only knows homeostasis so that it doesn't create disease, imbalance. And, at first you might be ramming it down the throat and the body might be reacting, but then it's like revenge of whatever you want to call it, and you start seeing MTFs masculinizing a heck of a lot more, and their health their bones start to, you see a lot of the MTFs, posture gets really, really bad. They start getting tons of weight. And we were looking at someone the other day, and 6-7 years ago when they first started, they weren't overweight. And you look at them now, and it's like, oh my Lord, what happened?
Because estrogen means it's the fat hormone.
Yeah.
I mean, fat happens when estrogen dominance takes place in a male body, mm-hmm. or a female body.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And, it's like, you're always talking about it. You're like, oh my gosh, it's the curse of women. Yeah. I mean, here you have women that are fighting to get saddlebags off their bodies. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have trans women fighting to get it on.
Yeah, or they get stuff put on there, or they wear pants that make it look like it. And I'm like, how disrespectful is that? I've been with women since I was 14, 13, whatever, and none of us wanted saddlebags, okay? It was like the curse of the saddlebag. You could have women with little, thin waistline and have these huge cellulite-filled hips. We don't want that. Why would somebody want to put that on themselves? It's beyond me.
I honestly think that it is because that is the male idea of what a female should look like.
Yeah.
You know, they have this image, and it's the male gaze, it's that autogynephilia thing that, you know, is so rampant in the trans community, that trans community wants to say, oh no, it's not there, it's not possible, that has been debunked, and it's not true, and it works for, and you who are like in your teens, and you think that it doesn't apply to you, and it just applies to people who are late transitioning. Well, I just wanted to tell you that it's the same thing. You know, just because the body at a younger age is reacting better to hormones and things like that does not mean that there's not this obsession with the gaze of a male wanting to have what females have.
Exactly.
It's across the board.
And they create the character. They create this persona, this personality, and, you know, their thing is to lure in, you know, men, straight men, preferably, and we see that a lot in the younger gay males who all of a sudden want to transition, and they want to transition because that is the only way they think that they're going to really get those straight men.
They don't want to transition just to transition. I mean, because there's girls out there that are in their teens that are never going to be beauty queens. But it seems like every single young trans woman person wants to be a model or
an actress. Yeah, they want their names in life.
They want not to just be a girl. They want to be the most beautiful girl that ever existed.
Because that's the focus of men, because everything is visual. And it's like they want to create the girl that they would like to date, and that's in the non-homosexual.
It's like that movie Weird Science back in the 80s, you know, where these little nerdy kids were creating, you know, their perfect dream girl, and then she appeared, you know, and they were like, whoa. So that's really not a healthy focus.
No, it's not, because it's not even about trying to find themselves. It's about creating this thing that they think they should be at all costs. And then pulling people into their, what they think is their reality. Because it's not enough about them living their reality. They have to bring everybody in. Let's just ram this all down people's throats. And I think that's where the trans community has gone totally wrong. Totally wrong. Because if you really just wanted to live your life in quietness and just like blend in, you would have done that. But instead, you see all these individuals that just want to see their names in lights.
And the trans community nowadays is so like on the offense that they have to have every right imaginable. And, you know, that pendulum, when Mr. Trump was elected, was swung right back over to the other side. And, you know, it's not looking really good for the trans community at this point in time.
And I don't think it ever will again, because I think people have reached that cotton ceiling where, you know, they're really now worried, you know, that this whole trans narrative is taken over. I mean, they're going to schools pretending, telling everybody how to be a drag queen. You know, they're just like taking over I want to say the word normal, because the other is not really.
And these drag queens, like, they have like really lewd, crude names too. And they just like don't think anything of it, you know, to just walk in and ask a young, impressionable 5-year-old, would you like to be a drag queen when you grow up? It's like, what kind of future is that? I mean, you think about it, a drag queen, I just don't see what kind of a future that is, to ask a 5-year-old impressionable child, little boy, if they want to be a drag queen.
It's pretty sad. And you know, instead of focusing on growing as a person, becoming the healthiest person you could be a good individual, doing things for your community, doing things for others, helping the elderly in a nursing home, doing something positive and good, all the focus is self-gratification. What am I going to do to my body next so that I could fit in and become stealth and live my life as the gender that I thought I should be? Because it's not the gender that you are, it's the gender you think you should be. Because the gender you are has already been determined at birth. And then and again, I'm not saying don't express, don't dress, don't don't live your life, but when it's taken to the extreme where you're self-harming and you're harming those around you, then that is where the world is going to say enough is enough. And I think that's what we're seeing.
And if there was anybody who could live a stealth life, it's this person right here.
Yeah, I never
They
did.
had every option, every possibility to just transition, and if they were really, if you were really the man that you were saying that you were, you would have just taken your rightful throne and claimed it
and
lived it and walked away.
Yeah,
you know,
I was
but
married
it's
to a genetic female, I had a business. I gotta just like live my life, but a little inner voice that speaks to us. May take a couple of years for some of you, but there's a little inner voice that tells you, imposter. Yeah, you, imposter.
like,
You're not a man. You'll never be a man. You start realizing, and you start like, okay, I'm not like that species. I'm different. I think different, you know? And it happens to everyone. Sooner or later, it happens because that conscious will speak up in one way or the other. You know?
and you know, if it doesn't for some of you, it's probably because you brainwash yourself so much that, you know, you think that these things don't apply to you, you know, and you bought into that dream and you invested into that dream. Say you had SRS, for instance, or you had the phalloplasty. Well, where does that leave you? Where do you go from there? You know, I mean, the extremes of, you know, a person who had breast augmentation surgery, to have them removed, to go through all the surgery and all that. People are like, well, I'm just going to live with what I got, you know, and it's like, but the reality is that you're always going to live this half-fulfilled life because, like you said, imposter.
You know, just the voice just like screams. At first, it starts to whisper, and then it'll scream it at you. You know, after a while.
So we had this this guy. He commented on our YouTube video. We did a video a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, called "Breaking the Process." And had lots of people reacting to it. And this guy, you know, he was sharing because you gave some more information, personal information about me, about us,
Right.
and stuff. And you know, he came across Christian, and you know, he kind of tackled some of the
Really
psychological issues that I've been dealing with, you know, throughout my life,
Right.
and how that would have been an influence on how I am today, what I did and why, and you know, I'm not going to say that he's got it all right, but he really dug in pretty good, and I've wanted to take another look at this, but you know, I haven't. But it's just, you know, I think it applies to so many more people.
Oh, it's definitely. I mean, why would anybody want to stray away from the typical, or we could call it normal existence? The only reason we do things of that nature is because we're trying to deal with pain. We're trying to cover up pain. We're trying to run away and hide. And what's the best way to run away and hide is to create another reality. And these realities, you know, are hurtful at times, and we can't deal with it. So let's go ahead and read what Derek Brown, I mean, he's wrote it, so it's okay to share his name because he wrote it there on
and you guys can check it out on our Breaking is a Process video, the comment. I very much appreciate your thoughtful and open response to it. I find it interesting how you describe it as a demon that enters a hurting vessel and finds the weakest link. I've heard attacks from the demonic, take that as you will, And, you know, we're not advocating this typical Christian demonic influence and stuff like that. I mean, for those of you who believe that, you're entitled to that, but, you know, this could also be an issue of the psyche, the mind,
the ego
itself,
you know, our dark side.
Finds a place of weakness, and it latches onto that. I've heard attacks from the demonic, take that as you will, described as the demon latching onto our wounds. It seems to find us where we itch and won't let up. All of our woundedness, LGBT and otherwise, seems to be two parts. One part spiritual, and the second part psychological. I agree that prayer alone is rarely, if ever, the answer. I see it like this. We have to experience the ups and downs of life to mature and progress. So the work that needs to be ours. We need to own it.
Yep.
God acts in our life like a lighthouse or a break in the clouds that lasts just long enough to show us the way. I think he also gives us occasional windows of consolation, so that when we are back in life's desolations, we can remember what we are striving for. I have a mental image of a swarm of flies, a spiritual attack, on a festering wound, or psychological wounds. Our psychological wounds, the festering wound. We can shoo the flies away, but if the wound isn't tended, they will return. And the deeper the wound, the longer it takes to heal.
I've noticed that the LGBT trend out of religious families as well, as I had mentioned that to him, and particularly from the Catholic Church, from which I am a member. One avenue of possibility, and I'm sure there are others, is that we have had several generations who have left it to the church to instill a healthy well-being in their children and have neglected their own role to guide and protect their children, or to even have just a basic "how are you, son" kind of relationship. Like the earlier comparisons, the church is the lighthouse, but so many parents toss their kids overboard instead of taking them into a safe harbor. Also, the hierarchy was blindly trusted and not screened for the wolves. It also kind of like trusting the public education system to actually educate your kids without ever looking over the curriculum, reading report cards, and helping with homework. We have 50+ years of children growing into adulthood with disinterested parents.
Although I've not personally dealt with LGBT attraction, I do understand some of where Lynn is coming from in regards to a father, and have my own host of reverberating issues. Growing up, my family was intact, and on paper, it looked great. However, my dad was distant and also not very attentive. He spent more time out of the house than was necessary, and when he was home, our interactions were never meaningful and most often negative. He was a manly and gruff guy, and I thought he rejected me because I wasn't assertive, athletic, or because I was too much of a nerd. I didn't have direction for what authentic masculinity looked like or how it had to be lived. This perceived rejection made me feel and solidified my identity as unmasculine. Thankfully, on a subconscious level, I began to look for father figures in my 20s. Men I could look up to, like my martial arts instructor, a doctor I worked for, and the authors and thinkers that I wanted to aspire to be like. Even now at 35, I still feel like I'm on a search for what it means to be a man. Looking back now, I can see that my dad checked out on us, at least in part, to distance himself from a difficult wife. This does not lessen my past experiences, but now gives me two people to place the yoke of responsibility on and lightens the load somewhat. Moving forward, as a child and into adulthood, I had carried guilt and responsibility on my shoulders that was not mine to bear. I would look in the mirror and see someone who should have been different because I thought my wounds were my character. I'm learning that it wasn't myself, but my parents, who should have been different. I was just a kid.
I didn't know about the commonality of Asperger's among the transgender people. As I explained to him that there were a lot of trans people with Asperger's. I myself have been diagnosed with ADD as an adult, and I have a history of difficulty connecting with people, reading emotions, and building friendships. I've also had what I would describe as an inner life that I didn't know how to make exterior. if that makes any sense. I mean, this is all very unbuttoned. There's some overlap with Asperger's, but I have attributed my own issues with neural pathways being forged at the time in my life where my social and emotional needs were not being met. And this is key. I mean, this guy should have been trans himself, but he
held back.
He held back because these are the issues that we all face and what creates this unreality that we're trying to deal with. I've heard about the nightmare of reversal paperwork. I believe I heard that Walt Hires say that he finally got his paperwork done and listed him as female. So he wants to have all of his paperwork listed as female because of the red tape. But he actually got his stuff done.
Recently. After 28 years. Yeah. So for Lena, I would make a suggestion. Now I say this with knowing you only from your videos, and I'm sure I'm lacking important information. I appreciate his, understanding. So take it in for what it's worth. But I would explore the part your mother and sister played in your formative years. If your father wasn't good, look to see if she contributed to his behavior. If not, then at the very least, he is the man she chose and is still not free of responsibility. If they are angry and reject you at this time, I would look for two things. What amount of it is a legitimate reaction to your own actions? And the second thing is to look for what amount of it is deflection or the transference of guilt/responsibility. Your situation, which roots to your childhood, is living and breathing proof of her own deficiency and brings her own moral agency into question. People often feel threatened when their own wounds are being exposed by another. If either of your parents are not willing to listen to you with sincerity, open up to their responsibility, own up to their responsibility, and attempt restitution. Then I would write them out for the foreseeable future. If that's the case, then they will not help you heal. Rather, they would rather you keep your wounds for fear of making their own wounds visible. And they recommended that we listen to some videos or watch some videos by Stefan Molyneux. And these videos are very insightful, very, very interesting. How, there was one kid who was from Tonga, I believe, and he had been beaten by his dad. He had been, just terrorized emotionally and stuff. And he ended up moving out, leaving and going to the States and stuff. And he asked him, so how do you feel about your father? And he goes, well, I still love my father. And he's like, how can you love, someone who has been so destructive to you? It's not fair for you.
I didn't agree with Stefan's intake, because I believe that forgiveness is something that is so important, and if we hold on to these things are ego, and it doesn't help anybody. I think that everyone in life makes a mistake. Our parents didn't have a manual, they did the best they could. We all do the best we can. And I think that we could grow and learn from our mistakes and forgive each other, because we really, what are we? But, particles banging against the air, and again, spirit having a human experience. But sometimes our human mind is not as evolved to be able to deal with these situations. But a lot of what he said was spot on. It's like all these things that we were born awkwardly because we have a neurological impairment, be it the chemicals in the environment that our mother was exposed to. And then we try to find a solution to try to fit in, and we create these characters, Mark Leno and all the names out there, Prashad and all these naming lights, and thinking that we're going to solve our problems, and our problems are not solved in the least by doing what we're doing.
But one of the peculiar things about this journey back to ourselves is just this understanding that when we did go to try to fully embrace Christianity's claims and everything, it seems like a lot of times the same exact feelings are generated within the people who claim to be delivered, that they still have a need to tell their story, to be in life, to have themselves recognized. And, it's like And, I was asking someone the other day, I was like, so why do you have those porn pics of you as a prostitute up on, I mean, why do you keep them? Well, they're part of my story, and when I share it, I want to be able to share the whole story.
The glory of God.
It's like nobody wants to see an X-rated picture of someone. I mean, it seems like people are still holding on to the image of what they were.
The behavior doesn't change. It goes from one pendulum to the other side of the pendulum. It's still the same self-gratification, attention-seeking. They go from one addiction into another addiction, and they just they put all their in one basket, and they put all their essence into that, and they become this now I'm saved, and it's like there is no difference, because now they're battling, trying to get back to the other side, and it's that same battle. And ego is very sneaky, as I said before. It's all ego. Ego will play the victim, or ego will play the arrogant fool. Either or, and it's like there is really no healing that way, because you still are carrying on to this cross. You're still carrying on this whole I'm diseased, but now I'm better. And it's like there was never any real true disease or disorder. The only thing was the hurt that you are feeling that you need to work through. Forgive your parents, forgive yourself. And that is what's going to allow you to grow and evolve and break those chains.
And the truth is that the pain that you feel is really an illusion. It's not.
We've got some comments there.
Oh, yeah.
Lynn said,
we
hi,
are.
You two, are you in a
Hi,
hotel?
Lynn.
Yeah, we are.
We're in our new home, actually. Yeah. It's a place here in Silver City that we were able to find inexpensively, and we love it. It's a lot bigger than our Prius. So we're just enjoying being able to take a shower.
Yeah. And I think my stepdad had commented something, hello, how you guys doing earlier. And somebody says, give me a cure. There's really no disease. It's just forgiving yourself and understanding where your pain has led you to. The pain has led you to do things that are hurting yourself.
There's really nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
What you see as to be a flaw is actually an illusion. You're not really broken.
Not at all.
You just project that onto yourself, and you think you are.
And then we blame other people for our faults. We blame, well, if I only had this, if I only was able to do that, then I wouldn't be this way. And everything in life happens for a reason.
She said, excellent.
Everything in life happens for a reason. And when we start awakening to our true potential, and we start realizing that this is just a playground, really, and the stories that we create are just that. They're just stories. They're not. That's not who you truly are. Who you truly are as spirit is pure love, light, and understanding. You don't give yourself enough credit. I know we've been taught from the time we're little, especially religious bigotry believes that you're bad, you're a sinner, you can't trust your heart. And that is so furthest from the truth. Our true creator loves us. He doesn't even know these stories that we're creating. These stories that we're creating are just part of our own stuff. And he's like, it's madness. It's madness because we have been separated from our true self, our true essence, by a world that tries to push all these products and try to make you think you're something else. Because if not, you're boring. That's what we think. Oh, my life is too boring. I need to create a better story.
It kind of reminds me of what your doctor told you a year ago when you went in for, a checkup.
Yeah.
And she looks at you and she sees that you're healthy, and she's like, you're boring. It's like,
I can't do anything with you. You're boring. You're healthy. What, I don't like healthy people.
So then after that, a year later,
yeah,
she decides to give you the full-on blood work.
Yeah.
I mean, you had like 9 vials of blood taken out of you. I didn't know if you were going to be able to walk out of that place, because one would come out and then another one go in, another one come out.
I got to find something on this one. And it was just like 100%. I mean, blood work of a 15-year-old.
We are back in Silver City, New Mexico, our favorite place on the planet, and so happy to be back here. You know, it's just such a blessing of this place. If anybody ever get a chance to come out here, it's so gorgeous.
Yeah, it's
You
amazing
know.
place.
But
yeah, she took 9 vows, you were saying, and then
yeah, she took 9 vows.
and then
It was like
wow,
didn't find
keep doing what you're
anything wrong.
doing. And I'm like, yeah, well, thank you. I don't believe in modern medicine. I believe in the natural approach. I believe in, just doing things that are in the right energy or the right essence of my body.
And we went to church, because it's one of those things where you feel like you want to do the right thing and stuff. And we went and we were just really just kind of disappointed yet again, with organized Christian religion and stuff. And
we believe in God, we believe in Jesus.
Totally.
We just don't believe in the institutionalization of,
Christian belief.
faith. Yeah, exactly. And it just doesn't ring right in our hearts, and it's just.
I spent time with a good friend who was very gracious to let us, into his home. He and his wife. They were very kind and everything, and they took us in, and it was a very neat experience, and I'll always be appreciative to them. But it's like the gauntlet is thrown down with a lot of Christians, and they say, well, you need to be this way, or else you can't, feel like you're going to be doing the right thing. And, with this issue of expression, I just think that the church is totally missing the boat. I mean, I think that, this idea that people have to submit to these stereotypical boxes of expression, and, guys have to act a certain way, and girls have to act a certain way, and, you have to fulfill the role that you were given and assigned at birth. And it's like, people are just people. People are just humans, and we have an essence of femininity, an essence of masculinity to every one of us. And whether you choose to not, accept that, that's your business. But for those of us that have been born with an awareness of both the masculine and the feminine,
And duality.
and that duality of ourselves, and that connectedness that we have and share, that you and I share actually with each other, it's a beautiful thing.
It is.
And when that is attempted to be suppressed and to be smashed down, and to say, okay, that's demonic, that's evil, that can't be, then it just goes against like what we understand to be true to ourselves.
In our hearts, in our essence. I actually wrote something that says, clearly the revolt of self-expression has brought about the abnormal medicalized practice of altering one's body to fit the mind. All pathological and not a healthy way to integrate one's spirit and alignment. The story is just that, the ego needing attention, when the true solution of the fragmented mind is to return to oneness. I say express your duality. Do not fall for the gender box exclusivity. There is no transition in the sense of the word. There is only the return to one's original state of oneness. Stop the pathological and create peace with self. I mean, that's just kind of like, and I wrote that the other day, and because that's how I feel, in this wanting to fit in society's box. We go from here to here, and it's just like with us, we're trying to find, and it's like it's a balance, and in between, I know I'm a female, but I'm a female that has a lot of masculinity traits and enjoys, the things that I enjoy, and that doesn't make it make me a male in any sense of the way. I'm always will always be a female. With you, it's the same thing. You're a guy. You enjoy the softness or whatever it is. I mean, I can't speak for you, but
well, I mean, I'm not as refined as you are with that. I still have issues with all of that, but I've come to a place to accept it and to work with it and to understand it and to allow it back into my life. Whereas even just a couple months ago, I didn't want it to have anything to do with it. But, that is something that, I'm on the road to recovering and to accepting. Because if I don't accept my being male, being not just a man, but also being a father,
Right.
being a brother, being a son, then I'm denying my kids the ability to have a father. I'm denying my sister the ability to have a brother.
Yeah.
I'm denying my mother the ability for her to have a son. And when it all comes down to it, it's not about me, it's about how I leave this world a better place by what I've said and done and lived my life to help others, to be a light to other people, to help encourage other people. And when we, as ex-trans, we were destroying our families. We were destroying our memory that they love the person that they wanted in their life. We were killing, and that it's just wrong. And I will always be um, a dad, and never not be a dad. And my kids still carry my original last name. They still are known as Lopez. And, you know, that's something that I'll never be able to erase. That's them.
And just
That's the mark that I have left on them.
And just because you have childhood traumas that led you to believe that you were something you're not, doesn't mean that everyone should play along with those childhood traumas. That means that you need to work through those childhood traumas. That means you need to learn to truly love yourself unconditionally. Not just love yourself if you are able to portray what you think you should be. I mean, and that's very important because, again, there are so many people out in this world that wish they could be something or have something or do something. That's all ego. Ego creates the drama, the victimization. I wish I could this. When in the end, we're just spirits. Gender is part of societal's construct. And it really doesn't matter. Because biology is biology, and it serves a purpose. We create lives, we create families, and then our trauma rears its ugly head and tries to destroy the things that we've created because we don't want to be what we are. I mean, and that's just, to me, that's just pure ego.
Yeah, that's just too much we and I and me in that, because, that's just how it is.
And it's just so much work to try to be something or not. So much work to try to prove something. It's heavy. It causes diseases and cancer and just makes the mind even more neurotic and more psychotic. Yeah, we're going to talk about. Actually, next thing
That's just that flaw.
yeah, there's a doctor by the name of Stanley Biber.
Well, he's dead now.
Okay, dead doctor.
He was the doctor that actually trained Dr. In San Francisco.
Beverly,
What's the name? Dr. Marcy Bowers.
Okay.
Learned from Dr. Biber the techniques of, penile inversion and stuff like that from this doctor who was the original doctor who came out to, Trinidad, Colorado, to a Catholic hospital and started to perform surgeries on men to make them into women. That's what they thought was happening. But Dr. Biber had a different idea because he testified.
He went to see Dr. Biber in a letter to the Superior Court of California and County of San Mateo after performing male to female sex change surgeries, admitting the resulting genital sex is neuter, not female, as he claimed on medical records. So
this whole it's a girl thing, people. It's a girl thing in your placebo mind, because there's nothing that happens to a male's body that makes them have a female part. All that happens is that the male gets castrated and neutered like a dog, and
you still have the prostate, so
right.
You can't get rid of that. And it's all cosmetic, really. And all you're doing is really getting your documentation changed, which is something that I believe the state never should have done. If you wanted to say you're different or whatever, big T, whatever, something else, but it's really,
or a C for confused.
Yeah. And did you know that no amount of surgery, hormones, injection, or anything else can or will change the birth gender DNA? It is absolute. It's not something that we can ever change. The only thing that medical can change is medical records, birth records, and the perception that a change took place on the operating table. A DNA test would prove no sex change took place. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but, that's what it is. What's the next thing we have on here? Oh, children of gay couples speak. I posted this on my Facebook the other day because I, haven't been a lesbian for, I don't know, about 27 years, and I was almost going to have children on my own with my partner. We went to a sperm bank. It never happened. We tried 3 times. Over 3 times, it was too emotional for me to continue to try and do it. So they went ahead and wrote how they feel, and they were worried about saying anything that was in you, the backlash that they were going to get regarding this.
Heather Barwick, who was raised by her mother and her mother's lesbian partner, wrote in an essay this week and this was back last year, March, that same-sex marriage is not the same as normal marriage between a man and a woman. That the traditional family is best, and that while growing up, she ached every day for her dad.
Barwick, who is now 31 and married and has 4 children of her own, says the same-sex marriage and parenting withholds either a mother or father from a child while telling him or her that it doesn't matter, that it's all the same. But she quotes, "It's not." At least that's how she feels. "A lot of us and a lot of your kids are hurting," wrote Barwick in her essay for the Federalist website. "My father's absence created a huge hole in me, and I ached every day for a dad. I love my mom's partner, but another mom could never have replaced the father I lost."
I grew up surrounded by women who said that they didn't want or need a man, said Barwick. Yet as a little girl, I so desperately wanted a daddy. It is a strange and confusing thing to walk around with this deep down, unquenchable ache for a father, for a man, in a community that says that men are unnecessary.
Barwick stressed that she loves her gay mother and gay people in general, but that the nature of the same-sex relationship is what caused her to come out of her own closet and write the essay about why she does not support gay marriage.
Gay marriage doesn't just redefine marriage. Okay, this article is from 2015 also. Okay. But also parenting when gay marriage became a hot button issue. She says it promotes and normalizes a family structure that necessarily denies us something precious and foundational. It denies us something we need and long for, while at the same time tells us that we don't need what we naturally crave. We will be okay, but we're not. We're hurting.
And but by and large, the best and most successful family structure is one in which kids are being raised by both their mother and their father, she says. Children of divorce can note how the divorce affected them, or adopted kids may yearn to know their biological parent. But children of same-sex parents do not have that same voice.
It's not just me, said Barwick. There are so many of us. Many of us are too scared to speak up and tell you about our hurt and pain. Sounds a lot like trans wives.
Yeah.
Because for whatever reason, it feels like you're not listening, that you don't want to hear. If we say we're hurting because we were raised by same-sex parents, we are either ignored or labeled a hater, she wrote.
There is actually, copy this here, there is a study that, because I posted this on my wall, I didn't post it in any which way to be condemning. I just thought that was, wow, sad, here's this person who has opened up their hearts, and they're being attacked, by the community that she has supported. My gosh, she was raised by two moms,
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, okay, can somebody have a little compassion for the other victims? Because one of the things I've noticed in the LGBT community is that, oh no, you can only feel pity for the LGBT. You can't feel pity for the individuals who the LGBT individuals might have hurt in essence, and might have changed their world and reality. So we've got to be fair, and we've got to allow different voices. I think that's one of the reasons I want to have the show. I love the show that we do, because we're talking real here. We're bringing points that other people are like, we don't want to hear it. But we have to hear it, because we can't just think of ourselves. And I don't know if this is the one that says the actual study. Oh, yeah. They did a 20-year study, included over 22,000 children, and found that fathers reduced behavioral problems in boys and psychological problems in girls, enhanced cognitive development, and decreased delinquency. So a father has an important role to play in that child's life, and a mother has an important role to play. So when you have two parents, a father and a mother, obviously they have to be well-rounded, mentally. If you have a messed up mom or a messed up dad, then the kid's going to be just as messed up. But in the norm, if you have a normal dad and a normal mom raising kids, you're going to have a better adapted child than a child that's from a broken home, from a same-sex marriage. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that these are utopia. These are the things that we all want. Like when my mom and dad got a divorce, and even though I kind of wanted that to happen because my dad was abusive, it still affected me. It affects us in ways that people don't even want to understand. And the people that don't want to understand is because they have their own invested interest, not wanting to understand.
But instead of being compassionate to understand that, this is just a woman who's really a little girl inside who just wants a hug from her dad, who's obviously not, there, and has disconnected from her for a long time. She just longs for that to be her life. Instead of just having compassion, people just just kind of like go, wow, I didn't really think of that. I mean, that touches my heart. They just have to go, well, we don't need these stereotypes of, male-female relationships and stuff, because, that's just not how it is, And, I'm glad that I didn't have a dad that was around for me, because, my dad was, and it's like,
yeah, and then they make it all about them. And they were talking to me because I shared this on my wall. I mean, I'm like, wow, it's like, have we become so PC oriented that people can't speak their minds or can't share another view?
They just can't.
And that's the problem.
You get shot down, and that's what she was saying. I mean, it's like, hey, people like us exist, she's saying. Same-sex kids, from same-sex marriage, kids from same-sex marriages, they need to have a voice. We are here. We're not going away. We are living with the scars. We are living with the pain and the trauma and the things. And you can ignore it if you want to. You can pretend it doesn't exist. You can call us like some kind of fundamentalist or something, but the fact is, this woman grew up in a same-sex marriage relationship, had two moms, and just wanted her dad. I mean,
is that so bad? I mean, is that, does that take away from what other people are doing? It's like everyone is entitled to voice their heart, a little compassion. And I think if the LGBT community started to learn to have compassion for other people, and not just be picking at people and calling people cis-scum and transphobe and homophobe, then maybe society would change. But remember, what we're generating our heart and what we generate in our brains, we're putting it out there.
And on the other side, if the Christian community will learn to have some compassion, understanding, maybe a little empathy for those things that people in the LGBTQ are going through, then maybe there could be some kind of understanding. And there could be some, no one's asking Christians to condone the behavior of people that you believe are actually living in sin or whatever, but there can be a love and expression of, acceptance of people, not their particular walk of life or lifestyle, or as some would call it, a death style, whatever, but just a way to be able to, for the two sides to actually be able to talk so that healing can happen, because as long as you're kicking them into hell all the time, there's really nothing that they can talk to you about, because you're unapproachable. You treat them like lepers. I mean, it's like,
it's healing that needs to take place. There's a lot of healing, and awareness is the first thing that we have to have, not condemnation. And once we are aware that, okay, this behavior that I'm doing here is being generated by a pain, a longing pain that I've had throughout my life, and the stuff that I'm doing is soothing for me. So now you label it, you're able to work through it, and you're able to understand. And as you heal, you have a different understanding about it. You have a different perspective. You have a different attitude. Because the problem is not that you like to express in a certain way. The problem is the pathological expression of it, the wanting to just ram things down people's throats. Just like some in the Christian want to ram God down people's throats. Transgender people want to ram down the gender down people's throats. And that's pathological. That's ego. Anything that's done in ego is pathological, because the ego wants to destroy you. It will do everything it can to destroy the person, the host. It's like a parasite that just wants to eat away at the host. The Pope had some things to say about trans. He calls it terrible. The Pope has had several things to say about trans, and it's Pope Francis.
The Vatican released a transcript of Pope Francis's remarks in which he slammed schools for teaching trans inclusivity. Pink News has reported. Today in schools they are teaching this to children. To children, that everyone can choose their gender, he said in a recent meeting with Catholic bishops.
Francis claims the increasing acceptance of trans people is due to the ideological colonizing, and calls it terrible. Speaking with Pope Benedict, who is well and has clear mind, he was telling me, Holiness, this is the epoch of sin against God, the Creator. Is intelligent God created the world this way, and we are doing the opposite, said the Pope.
Kelsey Louis, CEO of Gay Men's Health Crisis in the U.S., said he was saddened and disturbed by Francis' comments. Our children deserve to know that of course they have the right to choose, and GMHC applauds all schools that teach students not to oppress who they are, but instead live the life as the gender they most identify with, he said.
What we need now is for world leaders to spread a message of tolerance and acceptance. The Pope remarks come as Australia's Safe School program continues to draw transphobic criticism from parents who do not want gender diversity taught in classrooms. I don't think that's something that should be taught in classrooms, per se. I mean, for crying out loud, didn't they remove sex education at one point? I think that parents should be, parents should be teaching tolerance and acceptance and understanding, and teach children not to be bullies. But I think the thing that you could choose your gender, you can't choose your gender. You have a personality. Express that personality. Shine. I mean, there's some really flamboyant boys out there. There's nothing wrong with that. What we need to teach is other people not to pick on that flamboyant character. Or you have some girls that are really, really tomboyish and masculine, and they've been picked on. We need to teach society not to pick on that. But what happens is that the church has taught intolerance, and there's a lot of bullies, and then people feel like, well, if I can't be the expressive nature, even though I'm born a guy, then I'm just going to become a girl. And that's where the pathology kicks in. That's where the world of problems begins, because then you try to hurt yourself in trying to accomplish this character that one creates in the mind. You know? And we skip through the fasting and talk a little about that. We started, I mean, we've been fasting for, gosh, since you and I.
Since I've known you.
Yeah, and I even fasted prior to that. I used to fast for my ex-wife. I believe fasting is a tremendous way of healing. It's a tremendous way of cleansing. It just hits like a reset button. New neurons start to grow in your brain, new cell generation. But what we're trying to do now is what?
It's a different kind of fasting. It's more like an intermittent fasting where we don't like take a specific like period of time during the year where we dedicate 3 or 4 days. But we just do, what we're doing now is like doing a 1-day fast where we take Sunday and then in the afternoon we stop eating and we don't eat until Monday evening and stuff. And that is something that we found out that by doing intermittent fasting, instead of just this like, 4 times a year or 3 times a year, that it actually does some really cool things for regenerating as the week goes on, and it's just like a cycle. Now we're also trying to incorporate the drinking more water, taking in more fluids.
Distilled water.
And yes, urine therapy.
Urine therapy.
We haven't, anniversary out, but
we'll just close. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to have a show more about that and really showing the benefits. And I know a lot of people that the last test that I had, the doctor
blood work said it all.
The blood work said everything. A person who's had a lot of issues because of being on testosterone for so long, when I started doing therapy, urine therapy, it's called. The numbers just, the doctor's like, wow, whatever it is that you're doing, keep doing it. So it's something we really want to educate you on, and if you want to try it, great. If you don't, that's great too. But it's something that is well put together with the fasting, and it just regenerates every part of your body.
Think about this. Think about how people are talking about these innovative new technologies. I mean, I remember there was a famous football player who went to Europe to get a stem cell type surgery done to his neck, and he came back and he won the Super Bowl, after rehabbing. But this whole concept of stem cell, of cells regenerating and everything, well, to tell you the truth, all of that stuff is right inside your own water source that you have and that you generate every single day. And yes, it is gross to you. I understand that. But if you get past the if factor, you realize that there are really, really great benefits to urine therapy. I mean, because, it just places your own DNA-coded type of elixir that really targets whatever deficiencies you have in your body, and it targets it, and it helps it heal. It helps, you in so many incredible ways. And, people go, oh, it smells so bad. And
it doesn't if you eat right, and I wouldn't recommend if you're a meat eater to do that. But for a plant-based diet person, and
if you drink a lot of water,
and it just targets. If you have any disease in your body, it creates the antibodies, it creates antibiotics, it creates a healing factor, and it creates stem cells to go in and heal exactly what your body needs to heal.
But let's just talk about the water thing, because the water fasting, is also a very powerful tool. That if you're grossed out of urine therapy, and obviously it is a progression to move to that level.
And for weight loss, is a magnificent type of thing, or a 1-day fast a week. And here it just goes, I'm trying to pick and choose what it says here. When it comes to eating schedule, humans are built for flexibility. It's a complete myth that people need to eat 3 times a day or 6 meals a day or any other specific schedule. Think about that for a minute. There's no way we would have survived the caveman days if we needed to eat every few hours. If we were really that fragile, we would have died off ages ago.
3 meals a day is a typical cultural pattern, but who says your body might not do better on some other eating schedule? Some people prefer to eat every day, but within a restricted window. Other people eat normally most of the time, but occasionally embark on long fasts.
But there is also an option between eat normally on some days, but then periodically go on a 24-hour fast. The common option is alternate day fasting, but some people also do a 1 to 3 fast days per week on set days.
For weight loss, the idea of occasional 24-hour fast is basically low-effort calorie reduction. Sure, most people will be hungrier and eat more on the day after their fast, but they probably won't eat twice as much as they otherwise would. And that calorie reduction comes without the need to count the calories in anything you eat. The only question is yes or no on food for the day.
This is more or less the same idea as restricted eating windows, say eating only between noon and 8 p.m. But some people find that cramming all their food into a short eating window gives them an upset stomach. For those people, one-day fasting might be easier because on feeding days, you can spread out your meals normally.
In terms of benefits that aren't related to weight loss, fasting has been claimed to help with everything from cancer prevention to life extension, but most of those claims are based on animal studies, and it's not clear whether the benefits in humans live up to the hype.
And I would say that other studies say otherwise, and there have been people who have cured. And I know FDA doesn't want anybody to say curing, especially,
They got money to make.
Yeah, but there are people that have reported improvement, and the way they're saying this, and I guess it was never cancer in the first place, but there have been a lot of benefits, by fasting, because the body goes in and it does what it knows how to do best when you get out of its way. So basically, all the benefits that you would have on a 7-day fast, a 3-day fast, you could have on intermittent fasting, because you're doing that every week, and the body it's almost like it takes time to go in and it knows, and especially when the body knows what you're doing, it goes, okay, healing time.
Yeah.
And it's not hard at all. I mean, we eat our last meal for breakfast on Sunday, and then we don't eat again till Monday evening.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that it works well, it gives us energy, and we just take that day to just relax.
Yeah, just relax, enjoy, watch some videos, meditate, meditate. Like to.
Yeah.
Haven't done that yet.
So, you want to talk about this last thing here?
Well, there's this article that came out. It's actually a book called The Uncensored Bible. And there are these Bible scholars that talk about maybe the Bible like this instead of what people think. And, there's this, everybody, even if you're not a believer in Jesus Christ, know the story about the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve. And this article was talking about maybe the knowledge of good and evil wasn't just, understanding and knowledge, but it was actually about being sexually active and aware.
So that was like the fall of mankind when they discovered that they were able to enjoy their bodies and something
because they
that
were
was being
naked and not ashamed.
Right.
They, when they were told that they would be like God, they actually became like gods because they were able to create life, and
prior to that, it was just the gods that generated life.
Right.
And so,
so the article,
it's pretty long.
Yeah, it's kind of long, so I don't know. But if you're going to talk about it, you might as well read something.
Okay, so I guess we're going to the beginning.
Let's return to the world's first and best news colony, the Garden of Eden. We know its original 2 inhabitants, occupants, did everything naked. Played horseshoes, gardens, swept pigeons, heckery, and checked on the animals. But that doesn't answer a key question. When precisely did Adam and Eve start having sex?
Most of us would guess within 5 seconds of seeing each other, but the real answer is more complicated than that. It hinges on some interesting terms in the ancient Hebrew language. A subject you know now can be quite what's that?
Titillating.
Titillating. Okay, speaking of titillating, consider that Eve had no children until she had the man of the house left their garden digs. Does this say something about their sexual activity or lack of it? Let's take a look.
Garden of Eden's founder, God, made only one rule, according to Genesis 2. Don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Big deal, right? It would turn out to be a very big deal. The only downside to rule number 1 was the harsh punishment for breaking it. Death. The upside was that anything else Adam and Eve wanted to do was copacetic, which was quite a deal. And again, they got to do it naked. The Garden of Eden was a great place to hang out.
But human nature intervened. Why couldn't they be happy obeying rule number 1? Why get so curious? It seems to us that God didn't help them in any way. He placed the tree of knowledge of good and evil conspicuously in the middle of the garden instead of, say, on the top of the mountain, Mount Everest. It wasn't long before Eve and then Adam did exactly what God told them not to do. So ended the world's first nudist colony, commune, wild animal pack.
Here's how it went down. The wily serpent, who must have seen the memo about rule number 1, approached the woman and asked her if God had told them not to eat from any of the trees in the garden. The woman replied that they could eat from all the trees in the garden except for the one in the middle, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. If they ate from it, they would die. You won't die, the serpent cooed or hissed if you like. God knows that when you eat from your eyes will be open and you will be like God, knowing good from evil. Keep that little phrase in mind, knowing good from evil. It'll get a little sexy twist.
Well, Eve liked the idea of having her eyes open. It would go with her nails, so she ate the fruit and gave some to Adam. Adam, like any man today, ate anything that was handed to him and didn't smell 3 days old. And surprising thing happened, they didn't die after all, at least not right away. Instead, the serpent promise proved to be true. Their eyes were open and they realized that they were naked. Uh-oh. Won't go with volleyball in the afternoon on the patio. Even worse, sin entered the world. And here we get to the part about sex.
Suddenly, Adam and Eve had the knowledge of good and evil. Well, what does that little phrase mean? Most people usually assume it means that their moral sense was awakened and they now have the ability to choose between right and wrong. According to this idea, before eating the fruit, Adam and Eve were like adult-sized children in a garden, as innocent as newborn calves. They didn't know right from wrong. They were also unaware of their own nakedness, kind of like a 2-year-old after bath time. They ran here and there with no thought of the crazy parts bouncing around. This was humanity in its toddler stage.
But when they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, they immediately passed through puberty into adolescence, also called early adulthood, which is characterized by self-awareness and a sense of right and wrong. They suddenly developed a conscience and became responsible for their moral choices. This explains why humans alone, in contrast to the animals, can make moral decisions. Unlike dogs, which must simply be trained to stop humping people's legs, humans can distinguish right from wrong and stop humping people's legs all on their own, one would hope.
Another different view of the meaning of good and evil is that phrase is called merism. We're sorry to introduce this annoying little word into your vocabulary, but it's useful for our discussion. It will help you win at Scrabble. Merism, which will net you a cool 10 points on the little tiles, means expressing the totality of something by speaking of polar opposites or contrasting extremes. Common phrases like from A to Z, top to bottom, east to west, young and old, are all merisms. In Genesis, knowledge of good and evil might be a merism that means knowing everything. That would mean that by eating the forbidden fruit, Eve and Adam introduced humanity to the ability to cultivate knowledge, to learn and explore, and to develop wisdom and technology. That's not a bad thing, and that's what attracts some people to this interpretation. They think that humanity's full potential was unlocked by eating the fruit. Others would argue If this potential was unlocked prematurely and unwisely.
Let us illustrate it.
Well, no, wait. Let's see, we don't want to talk about with Star Trek. Go to a sexy alternative.
Okay, a sexy alternative. Jacob Milgram is a well-known biblical scholar, known and retired from the University of California, Berkeley. He brings a great deal of skill and, as we shall see, perhaps an overactive imagination to his research. Milgram thinks that knowledge of good and evil is euphemism for having sex. He was actually willing to say this in a published paper that is full of words like pluperfect and colenterates, which is how scholars try to obscure the fact that they have overactive imaginations.
But does Milgram pull this idea out of thin air? No. The phrase knowledge of good and evil is used elsewhere in the Bible, so we can see what it means. One time it refers to children as not knowing good and evil. These children are defined as individuals who are younger than 20 years of age, and therefore presumably unmarried and sexually inexperienced. 20? Right. In the other passage where the phrase knowledge of good and evil is used, an 80-year-old man says that he can no longer discern good from evil. It's not clear at first what he means by this, except that he maybe used demented in writing poetry. He goes on to say that he's lost his capacities for tasting and hearing, so that he can no longer enjoy the pleasures of good food and music. In other words, he's too old to enjoy wine, women, and song. The wine and song are explicit. By discerning good from evil, our good friend Jacob Milgram presumes that the writer means he, the old man in the Bible story, and it's not Milgram, is too old to have sex.
Milgram further supports the theory by pointing out that Eve received her name, meaning the mother of all living, after God handed out the punishment to the snake and to the two humans. This happened just before God drove the couple out of the garden, busting up the paradise party like a beat cop. Milgram writes, before eating the fruit, she did not bear children, which suggests that Adam and Eve had no sexual intercourse in the garden. This sounds like a bummer situation. All looky, no touchy, and here we suspect that Milgram's imagination had failed to engage. We think it's probable that dynamic duo had sex while in the garden. The Bible says that Adam and Eve were naked but unashamed before they ate the forbidden fruit. As soon as they ate it, they realized they were naked, and you realize you're naked. And she's naked too.
And it's just the two of you. Bing, bam, boom. It's beyond us to guess who jumped whose bones. But this must have been like getting the keys to Lamborghini for the first time. Their powers of resistance must have been no match for the urge to try out their newly discovered pleasure buttons and levers. If Milgram's theory has any credibility, it's got to assume they had sex in the garden before they made their garments of fig leaves, and before God discovered their disobedience and punishment. Indeed, maybe one of the reasons God made clothes for them later was to curb their constant arousal. A dress made of freshly skinned sheep tends to do that. So, it just says that, this understanding to know, which in the Hebrew is for the knowledge of good and evil, that it demands that, it says that Adam had known his wife Eve, making it likely that their sexual relationship took place earlier in the garden when they first tried out their fun part. But, it's that whole concept of like, there's so many things that we don't know that, that we aren't privy to. And we think that just by reading things at face value that, oh, that's exactly what happened. But, this whole concept of like understanding what sex is and how it works and how, it has been like the forbidden fruit along, throughout the annals of time, I know that it was taboo to talk about sex from the pulpit.
Right.
My parents didn't want to talk about sex at all. Sex is described as dirty a lot of times. And really, it's the key to understanding and awakening.
Lots of that. So I think we pretty much covered everything. Is there any other questions maybe that people had on the actual chat there? I think we are. No, that's about it. Well, I think we've rambled long enough. If you guys have any topics that you want us to touch upon, please feel free to email us at transitionradioshow@gmail.com or at gypsybluenomads@gmail.com. Either or Be more than happy to cover any topics, information. If you wanted to appear as a guest on the show, to share your story, to talk about anything that you want to talk about, please let us know. And it is 7:40. I got to make dinner and running out of light here too.
Yeah, like sun's going down.
But anyway, it's been great. I miss doing this. I enjoy talking about topics that bring a lot of enlightenment and awareness. May upset some people, but sometimes people getting upset is a good thing because it kind of shakes a little head a little bit and gets something.
That's right.
All right, guys. So thank you for tuning in yet again. We'll be back next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. I think it's about 8 p.m. Eastern Standard and 5 p.m. Pacific Time.
Yeah.
So our typical goodbyes is, we love you, but remember to always love yourselves too. No ending, because I've got to find an ending. But good night, guys. Good work. Good night.